backheels it to score his third goal. Law's header found the net and up went the Hampden Roar.
On both sides of the border, he was the man who'd be hailed as the king.
Played there for Law, and number five by Denis Law.
But the career of Denis Law had more humble beginnings, a long way from his boyhood home in Aberdeen.
We lived in a place called Prinfield Terrace, and it was a Prinfield Walk. The manager of Huddersfield at that particular time was a guy called Andy Beattie, who was from Aberdeen, and his brother lived in Prinfield Walk, just across the road, and he must have seen me playing for the school or whatever, and that's where it all came about. And he said to my mum and dad, you know, we'd like Denis to go down to a place called Huddersfield, which was, of course, the other side of the world then, and that's when it all started.
Pond House, a short walk from the ground, was one of his first homes in Huddersfield.
We were in digs, and we were set up with a couple of people who looked after this house, and obviously had people staying there for a certain time. So I was in digs, where it was fantastic, really, because for the first time, really, I was getting some food. Bit of bacon and egg in the morning, which was, you know, it was absolutely delightful. And then, of course, we'd go to the ground. So we were well looked after. Oh, that was the landlady, yeah. Because I was feeling a bit homesick with, you know, being away from the family, they got a good friend of mine who was a good player, a guy called Gordon Lowe, who came down with us, so we sort of were in digs together. And at the beginning, the wage was £5 a week, which was a great amount of money, but it was £2.50 then for the digs. So, and then I used to send my mum £1 and that home to Aberdeen, and I was left with probably about equivalent to 50p now. So that went up about £3, which was like I'd won the pools.
These days, it's the home of a local non-league club. But this was where Denis Law used to train and play for the Huddersfield youth team. The ball would often end up in the nearby stream.
If you kicked the ball into that, I mean, that was expensive stuff, that. So, yeah, they had some guys there probably retired trying to fish it up, but yeah. I was never a good trainer anyway, so I really, you know, I like playing football, but I didn't like running about training, no.
As a young Huddersfield player, he underwent an operation which would hugely impact on his career.
I had, which was a family trait, in that one eye would be in the corner, and of course you were called cock-eye, which was not very nice. But so in a way, I used to play football with one eye. I used to close the eye because I was so embarrassed, whatever. And that was from the age of, as far as I gather, it was the age of 5 till I was 15. And whilst I was down in Huddersfield, I got the word that they wanted to do an operation back in Aberdeen with my eye, which my family had already had years before, some of the guys, to straighten my eye. You could imagine how I felt when they took off. I mean, I was blind for about 4 days, and then they took it off, and there I was. I looked in the mirror, and for the first time in my life, the eyes were straight. Changed my life completely. I was so confident then. I could actually look at girls and not be embarrassed or whatever for the first time. Mr. Shankly, top man. The manager was Andy Beattie. His assistant was a guy called Bill Shankly. One of them in particular turned out to be one of the greatest managers ever. He taught me how to head the ball, and he had something in the stand underneath, you know, to pull the ball up when you missed it and whatnot. So, yeah, he taught me everything.
Shankly, who succeeded Beattie in 1956, would remember how he managed Law's physical development.
When I got to see Huddersfield, and the Laws turned up at 15, a skinny little boy, then I knew that to overtrain him would be a silly thing. Now, I learnt my lesson. And I brought boys like Law along, trained him, stopped him when he needed training, and I knew what to give him.
There was a cafe across the road, not very far from the ground. And of course, what he did, I needed feeding up. Normally he wouldn't be doing this, but he would pay for the cafe to feed me up. It was just like a father, really. It was just like this child needs feeding.
Shankly gave Law his big opportunity. He was playing in the second division at 16 years of age.
To actually play in the first team, very nervous. I was an amateur, really, still an amateur, because you couldn't be a professional until you were 17 years of age. So it was huge, huge.
16-year-old, and a really big, unbelievable display of talent. Waverley, Willie Gallagher of the Daily Record came to the game, and I saw him after the game. I knew him well, because I'd played for Scotland, you know. And I said, listen, Willie, I said, you in early, I said, you go home and you put down in the paper that you've seen somebody that'll break the all-time Scottish cap record today, and he's only 16-year-old.
His reputation grew as a goal scorer. Remarkably, he found the role frustrating.
The problem of being a goal scorer, you're up there all the time. If the other team is having a really good day, you don't get much of the ball. I enjoyed playing what they would call, then it was an inside forward. Now it's what you would call a midfield player or whatever. So no. But as the manager says, you've got to play up there. You got to do what he says.
Denis Law was just 18 when he won his first international cap.
I was told by the newsagent in Huddersfield, on the corner of the street in the centre of town, he was selected to play for your country. I think he was taking the mickey, whatever. But, Denis, you've been picked to play for Scotland. What? What was that? Can't believe it. You can't believe it now, can you? But whatever you achieve in football, I don't think there's anything bigger than being representing your country. Whatever you win, or FA Cup or league, nothing beats playing for your country.
In 1959, Shankly became the Liverpool manager. Denis Law was expected to follow.
They didn't have the money to pay, which teams wanted for me. So I was very disappointed that I didn't go along with him. Things changed, obviously, as years went on, but I did expect I would be going to Liverpool. When he left, it was just the end of the world, really.
12 months later, he did move on to Manchester City for a British record fee. Huddersfield would reinvest it in a brand new set of floodlights.
Incredible amount of money, and you know as well as I do, of course, now you get a percentage of it. That not zilch, nothing. We all want to sort of better ourselves, or be in a better team. Nothing against Huddersfield, whatever. It was just a fact that it was the opportunity to play in the first division, which was really wonderful.
In a little over a season with City, he scored 21 goals. In one game at Luton, he claimed 6 more, or so he thought. None of them counted. The referee abandoned the game.
Diabolical. They should have kept it. I can't believe that, though. There was a pitch, was like mud, whatever, and he obviously thought it was just getting too much. Maybe Luton at that day couldn't play football in the mud. When you're a professional, you've got to play in everything. So, no. I think it was about 20 minutes to go as well, so I might have got a couple more with a bit of luck.
He'd returned from a spell with Torino in Italy to become a legend at Old Trafford. 4 years after leaving Huddersfield, he was the European Footballer of the Year. He scored almost 250 goals in 400 games for United. Among those on the receiving end were the last Huddersfield team to play at this level at the turn of the 70s.
Don't forget, I was there for 5 years, so I knew a lot of the people within the game and outside the game, and to come back and try and beat them was something I didn't look forward to. No, but you got to do it. You got to do it. Unfortunately, I don't know if they bought me a beer after the game. I'm not too sure on that. Yeah.
After 11 successful years at Old Trafford, he returned to Manchester City.
Didn't particularly want to do that in the beginning. You know, it was because the manager got rid of me, whatever. So we won't go into that bit, but that was the cause. And you know, Di was pregnant, and we had 4 other children, so it wasn't the best time in the world to get a free or to go. I got offered a few different places, but when Manchester City came up, I thought, well, I'm here, I don't have to travel or whatever, and so that was ideal.
United's decision to release him would come back to bite them. At Old Trafford in April 1974, they had to beat City to have a chance of avoiding relegation. Denis Law would make sure that they didn't.
It was a fluke. It wasn't. I didn't even got a clue where I was.
It was a famous goal. Is it one that still troubles you a little? I'll take that as a yes.
It's not easy, that. It's not easy when you score against somebody like that.
Especially in those circumstances.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, dear. Sad day. It was a sad day for everybody.
It was the last goal he'd score in league football. After returning from the World Cup with Scotland that summer, he announced his retirement.
It's like everything in life, isn't it? You come to a stage that you can't do what you used to be able to do, and therefore, let's call it a day. So that was it.
At Manchester City, he bowed out at the top. That skinny little boy from north of the border, in whom Huddersfield had seen such potential.
Huddersfield was a great experience. It was an adventure, which turned out to be very good.
Some would say they're on an adventure now by being back at the top, Huddersfield.
Yeah,
their adventure.
absolutely, absolutely.
Fingers crossed it can continue a bit longer.
Yeah, I'm hoping that they're still in the Premier League next year. Or forever.
With a stellar career for both club and country, he's one of the game's great players. How his journey began is a memory which Denis Law still holds dear.